Welcome to Bullen Bulletin. With me now, Mr. Guy Bullen from Senior Vice President Asia Pacific, Brinks Asia Pacific Limited, and Mr. Samir Hosangady. He is the Managing Director, Brinks India Private Limited. Welcome you both.
Thank you.
My first question to Mr. Bullen: what is the current market size for your business in Asia Pacific?
Well, the market size for Brinks, I won't talk about specific numbers, but I can say that the market size for precious metals for us, both transportation, storage, and related services, is very much a key pillar of our business, certainly in the Asia Pacific. So we're very focused on the key markets here: Hong Kong, Singapore, Shanghai, Tokyo, and of course Mumbai and Delhi. So for us, we look at the business from a few different levels. The gold business, of course, storage, distribution, transportation, inventory management, mainly for the banking system and jewelry community. The silver business, storage, related transportation for major wholesale financial institutions, and that is more of a heavy cargo business and logistics business. And then the PGM business, which is a very regular business, a lot of commercial related demand, and some very specific higher end activity in Hong Kong, Tokyo also. So we need to break the business down into those components and really look at the different aspects of it. But basically for us at Asia Pacific, the precious metals business is a very key anchor to our whole business.
So kind of infrastructure that is very precious, as the name suggests, precious. So it's a very multi-billion-dollar investment needed to do that kind of infrastructure. So what kind of, technological differences, infrastructural differences you are seeing between the European market that is already developed for a long time and the new Asian Pacific market, Asia Pacific market?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, because there's been a lot of discussion about the precious metals market moving from the west to the east,
yes,
so to speak. And I think over the last, certainly since I've been in Asia, the last 20 years or so, the infrastructure build out has improved dramatically. Not only infrastructure in physical facilities for gold and silver, but also IT systems, inventory systems. We're looking to try to constantly stay ahead of where the market is. So it's no longer enough to just manage an inventory and be the physical custodian of those assets. We have to be aware of the transaction. We have to deal with compliance and audit issues. We have to effectively manage the transaction, so similar to a COMEX type environment in New York, which we've been doing many years. And that's becoming more and more important as we get into kilobar contracts in Asia and futures contracts, and I think those issues will certainly grow in the future.
So I wanted to know a little bit more about this transaction compliance for the commodity exchanges. That just as you mentioned now. So how it is going on? What is the procedures? So what kind of services you are providing?
Well, right now we're providing different platforms depending on the country, but we are certainly very active with the recent growth of physical kilobar contracts and fully allocated inventory management that's been in the news in a few different places in Asia, including Singapore, Hong Kong. We're very active with the Shanghai Gold Exchange. We believe that SGE is quite committed to the market, and there's some very interesting things going on in the China market. So we see a lot of time, a lot of investment from our side on the systems and compliance side. And I think as we move into the future, whether it's anti-money laundering, audit compliance, those issues will become become more dynamic. I think the challenges with that will continue to grow, and our need to stay ahead of that, especially on the systems and data flow side, is very important.
So now, a logistic company who is specialized in moving and custodian of the precious metals, it is not only that they are not providing only these services. You are now transforming yourselves to a new platform, what you just mentioned now. So it's a technological innovation plus to provide more seamless services to the customer. I mean to say, is there any regulatory constraint to do all this?
So I think there are talks with the exchanges. We are looking at trying to bring in some of these best practices from the region, from other markets. But we haven't really got to a point where we can say that we can go ahead and execute it. So there are discussions. I mean, recently the gold monetization scheme, for instance. I mean, there's a huge supply chain related to managing that gold monetization. So I think that has taken a lot of our time, and we are working very closely with the stakeholders in trying to build a mechanism which would be fairly seamless for the customer, which is the consumer, the end user, and the banks. But I think there is a long way to go in terms of how much we can execute or how much we can build up here in India, and efforts are on. So Brinks is, I think, at the helm of some of these changes, and we are quite positive that as we bring them into the country, then the entire community benefits from this.
As you are talking about GMS now, I want to add another thing, that GST is also coming next year. So it will certainly help your business to grow.
Yes, it will. It will probably offer a more seamless service again to customers. You won't have vans stuck at various checkpoints and octroi points, or at various state borders. So there would be a significant saving in terms of your transit times, in terms of the commuting. But I think a lot has been said, a lot has been written about GST. My view is that the execution of the GST across states, across the country, that would be the key to the success. Because there are multiple stakeholders involved, and framing a policy is one, executing it is the. So that's I think where.
No, just coming to the last point, that again I want to ask, that GMS, the way it is designed, what I understood, that bullion, jewelry will be collected by the hallmarking centers, then it will be checked the purity, and then it will be stored, and then it will be delivered to the refinery. So in this process, there is need for a vaulting services.
Yes.
So 350, now they have earmarked 350 hallmarking centers are there in India. So for Brinks, is it possible to provide vaulting services to each of these locations?
Certainly. I think we have the largest network of vaults in India. We are growing our capacity in some locations. We are extending our reach in some parts of the country. So clearly, Brinks would be a significant player in terms of building a footprint which will support this program.
It's really certainly a big. It's really encouraging words from you. Now I back to Mr. Bullen. My last question: how are you planning your future course of actions in respect of the, as you already said about the kilowatt contract? So other than that, what kind of new products that you are planning to launch? How are you looking at to expand the reach of your not only your company but only the whole segment, the ecosystem of the whole secure logistic services? So what kind of market you are seeing?
That's a big question.
Now you must have some estimate, because.
Oh, I think the key issue for Brinks is that we are committed to the market. We are a long-term player in the market, so we try to view our strategy in the context of where will the market go over a period of time. We're not looking to get in and get out quickly. As a company, we've been around 156 years. We've been in India for a long time, since the 80s. So we have a significant commitment in all of the key markets where we are. So I think that's important, because in this business, trust is so important. Trust is, we all talk about it, but it is a critical component. So very often we see a very big role for us in the consignment business, when we effectively act as a third party in the middle of the transaction, or an honest broker, so to speak, in the transaction for precious metals. I see that growing. Whether the potential to do more to facilitate that, similar to what you were talking to Samir with on the assay or testing or side, to go a little deeper into the supply chain, I think is very interesting. I think we need to try to stay in front of the growing kilobar focus in key markets, including India. I think it's a very good development that LBMA and Shanghai Gold Exchange have really released the first agreed description for a kilobar, for an approved kilobar contract in an approved kilobar refinery. So I think that's also a good step. But I think for us, the key will be to stay ahead of the market and keep being aware of the trends and where it's going to move. So systems and geographic reach will be very important.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And my last question, so what is your expectation in this conference?
I see, for me, I see many familiar faces here. I think the attendance is extremely good.
This is record attendance this time.
Yeah, I believe it's going to be a very interesting conference for us to see not only many customers, but also what's happening in the Indian market, because the Indian market is a huge ecosystem on its own, and silver and gold also quite different dynamics. So I always learn something that I didn't know before when I come here about what's going on in India. So we're excited to be here. So I'm looking forward to a couple days in India. Always good to be back.
Thank you, sir. Thank you both of you. Thank you.